Welcome, cloud experts. Good evening. Hope you all are doing good. So far we have discussed about cloud technologies, basic of Amazon Web Services, cloud deployment models, global infrastructure, AWS regions, edge locations, IAM, and also we had few lab session on console, billings, alarms, dashboards, and IAM. In the last session, we have seen how to create an alarm, how to create an IAM, user groups, policies, and roles. So all those things are very much basics about AWS, cloud infrastructure, and AWS admin. And I also know few of you have questions on IAM roles, groups, and policies. You people have a little confusion about the policies and roles. So as and when I come across the IAM roles and policies in EC2 lab or in coming lab sessions, I'm going to again retouch those topics. But for now, I'm moving ahead. So today we are going to start a new topic altogether, and I'm going to discuss about S3. So a lot to know, a lot to discuss. So let's get started. Now, the very first thing which we are going to understand about the cloud storage. Now, today our main focus will be on the storage, and from today to next three sessions, we are going to touch about mostly our session will be around the storage, and if that is in storage, we are more focused about the object storage. But before we go ahead and start it about the object storage, let's try to understand what all the concepts of cloud storage, right? So few half an hour and 45 minutes would be a kind of theoretical session. I know we have got a couple of feedback where you people have not very much interested in the or you people have said, okay, if we could skip the theoretical part, or something like that. But theory knowledge is very important. We have many people who are from non-technical background and who have never worked on cloud technologies, who know nothing about all these topics and the concepts. So considering those things in mind, I'm going to again start with the theoretical part. And believe me, if you're going to give an interview and if you're going to write a certification exam, all these theoretical part will come into the picture later. Once you give the certification, when you start working, then only the practical sessions will come into the to help you. But initially, the theoretical part is very important. So let's go ahead and start about the concept of cloud storage. Now, what is storage? Now, everyone would have already used a computer, mobile, and you people save all your data on your laptop and mobiles, right? So that storage is slightly different because you have a machine, with you. But here in cloud storage, the storage over the internet is called cloud storage. Now, everything which is saved in the cloud is called as cloud storage, and every file on cloud storage is called as what? It's called an object. So whatever we are going to save, a small size of any data is called as an object. And also it has a different model. So cloud storage is a model in which data is maintained, managed, backed up remotely. So everything is going to be taken care remotely, right? So cloud storage, we don't manage anything. Everything is managed by AWS. So what all they do, they maintain, manage, and back up our data remotely. And data model available to users over internet, and the other user can also access that data over internet. Now, there are different types of storage in AWS cloud. These are the main three types of storage in AWS cloud, which is file storage, block storage, and object storage. We are going to discuss about file storage, block storage, and object storage. And maybe in future session, we are going to discuss a more deep understanding about file storage and block storage. Uh, but for this session, we are going to discuss more about only cloud storage. But until unless you won't understand the concept of file storage and object storage, you cannot differentiate the storage amongst each other. So let's go ahead and start understand the types of storage, and also about a little knowledge about the background about file storage and block storage as well. But before we go ahead, these kind of storage which we have in AWS, which is a file, Amazon EFS is a services which provides you the file storage, and for block storage, Amazon EBS and EC2 instance provides you the block storage. And object storage, which we are going to discuss in detail in today's session, will be provided by which services? Amazon S3 and Amazon Glacier. So both are part of object storage, and we are going to discuss more deep into Amazon S3, and in the later section maybe about Amazon Glacier also. So let's try to understand the file storage, which is AWS EFS. EFS is a Amazon services which helps you to store your data, store your objects or data in a file format. So AWS Elastic File Storage is a services. In the similar way, AWS EBS Elastic Block Storage is a AWS services. So file storage is what? It's a shared elastic file storage system that grows and shrinks as you add and remove file. Now in Amazon EFS, when we are going to do a EC2 lab session, there we are going to create one mount point, and that EFS mount point, and then that mount point we will not add any space to the mount point, because elastic file storage is a file storage where you just create a file storage, and as and when you are going to add your data into that file storage, it's going to increase automatically. And when you are going to delete the data from this file storage, the file storage will shrink instantly. So you don't need to define that this much 10 GB or 20 GB or 100 terabytes file storage you need. You just create a file storage, mount it to any EC2 instance, and you are good to go ahead and start with that file storage. And that file storage is shared. So that particular mount point you can share to many servers. Now all those things, shared file system, how to create and how to mount it in the EC2 instance, just keep these words in your mind as of now. But maybe in EC2 section, when we are going to start working on the lab, that time you can we will again come back and we will discuss more about the file storage and how to create all those things. But as of now, just giving you a just overview of file storage. It's a shared elastic file storage, and the data organized into directories and subdirectories, right? So from there, in the mount point, if any one of you from the Linux background, you can easily understand what I'm talking. You can create a directory, and inside that directory you can again create a multiple subdirectories, right? So that's data organized into directories and subdirectories. And elastic file storage is useful for SaaS application. So if you're using any one of the SaaS application, I know by this time you know about 4-5 SaaS applications. So we are going to if you are going to use the EFS, mainly it is used in the SaaS application. All right, so you can mount EFS onto several EC2 instances at the same time. That means if you create one elastic file storage, and that mount point will have a 1 terabyte of, or that mount point you can easily mount to different EC2 instance at one time. So that means that drive, that file storage will be shared to 2 or 3 EC2 instance, or maybe several EC2 instance. Now you can just map that concept with the Google Drive. Now I have created one Google Drive and I have shared with you all guys. You all people can actually access it, right? So in the similar way, we can create one elastic file storage, and it can be shared to multiple EC2 instances. So that's what it is. It is actually. And then we will let's go and move to the block storage. This is a second type of file storage. This is second type of storage in cloud storage in AWS. Now, what is block storage? The block storage stores file in multiple volumes called blocks. Right here, it saves in multiple volumes. Now, again, once all these file storage and EBS are a kind of subtopic of EC2 instance, So just take an little overview about this block storage as well. But as and when we are going to start with the block storage, we are going to add a block volume. That time I'm going to explain you more about the block volumes as well, block storage as well. Right. So like it said, it's a storage file in multiple block volumes called blocks. So it acts as separate hard drive. Now again, in the EC2 instance or in any of the servers or in Windows machine, you know that you have a different hard drive, C drive, D drive, E drive in Windows, and uh, in Linux it may be U01, U02, U03, right? So in that way you can separate it. Block storage devices are more flexible and offer high performance than regular file storage. So if it comes to the performance, the block storage is highly higher performance. And you need to mount EBS onto an Amazon EC2 instance. Again, if you want to create one elastic block storage, you have to mount it with EBS. You have to mount with EC2 instance as well. So both you have to mount it, right? So you can create a different volume and you can add it to EC2 instance. We are going to cover the detail in the lab in EC2 instance as well. Now let's come back to the object storage, which is a topic which we are going to discuss in detail. So what is object storage? And the services is AWS S3. So object storage is AWS S3, which is useful for hosting website image and videos, data analytics, and both mobile and web application. So when you are going to create an AWS S3, here you can dump all of your data. What data? You can dump all your images, videos. You can create your backup. You can push your all the developer codes. All those things you can put it here, and it is used for both mobile and web applications as well. And you can also host one website as well. And data objects can be distributed across several machines, and these data can be accessed through several machines. You can access it from different application and different EC2 machines as well. Amazon S3 and Glacier are example of object storage. Now if we talk about the storage, the example Amazon S3, which we are going to cover it from now, and also Amazon Glacier, which is a kind of archives archive where you can put your all the data which is very less frequently used. So those data you can push it in the archives. And the Glacier is a component where you have to use that Amazon Glacier to put all your archive data. Now this is a small pictorial representation of object storage and block storage. So in the LHS picture, you could see it's a HTTPS interface object storage. So it's a you are you are trying to access all your object storage through some HTTP protocol, maybe from a web application. And how the data are stored? The data is stored with store virtually unlimited files, maintain file versions, right? So if the yellow side, you could see if there is one file which has multiple versions. So let's say if you have one file of your shift plan, right? You people are working in a company, you must have a shift plan, and or maybe a developer codes. So today is a version 1, and maybe next week you are going to update any codes, so that will be your version 2 codes. So this AWS S3 bucket will keep both the versions. In our lab session and in tomorrow session, tomorrow and day after tomorrow session, we are going to discuss more about the versioning as well. And it's a HTTPS based interface. Files are distributed in different physical nodes, right? So the object storage will be distributed in different physical nodes. And in the block storage, how files is split and stored in fixed size block, right? You know that 8 KB is the minimum block of block storage, 8 byte. And capacity can be increased by adding more nodes. You can add multiple nodes and you can increase the capacity. And suitable for application which requires high IOPS database transactional data. Now, if you're going to install a database, object storage may not work because the IOPS, it requires a high IOPS, because database will try to fetch millions of data, data and millions of inputs, right? So block storage is little more high performance. for a database or application or transactional application. So these are some test cases, but as and when we are going to discuss more about, I'll give you a little more example about the storage. But today our main focus will be on object storage. Now this is a small head-to-head example and differentiation between the performance, cost, availability, and accessibility, access control, storage, and file size limit across all the uh, three storage which we have discussed. Now, this is just a representational image where you could see the Amazon S3, how is the performance and how is the cost. If you try to see compare about the cost, and AWS EBS also, it will tell you about the performance, what is IOPS, and IOPS things I'm going to discuss more about when we are going to discuss the EBS. And the cost factor, maybe sometimes tomorrow or day after tomorrow I'll show you how to calculate the cost if you're going to use 1 GB of data, how you are going to analyze the cost which you would get. But you could see first 50 terabyte per month in Amazon S3 is 0.0245 per GB, and then next for 50 terabytes per month you have to pay 0.0235 per GB, and over 500 terabytes 0.0225. So if you are using more space, you have to pay less. But in Amazon EBS, user-based cost structure, that varies between regions, right? So region will have a different costing thing. So you can check all those costing things in our cost calculator as well, right? So again, availability and accessibility is kind of similar across all the file storage. It is highly accessible and highly available. Access control, it's a kind of access is based on IAM. From IAM you can access the control, and in EBS it's a security group. We have to create a security group. We have to create some ingress and egress rule, inbound and outbound rules, and you have to give a route table. So there are different type of access control in EBS, and EFS also, it's a IAM based and security group. So we will create a security group, and there you will assign a different which protocol you are allowing. And then storage and file size limits are, there is no limit on quantity on of object. It's similar across, but max storage size is 16 terabyte, and here no limit on size. You can create one mount point with 16 terabyte in EBS, but elastic file storage, there is no such limit. But there will be a limit on one object, which is 52 terabyte maximum of individual file. So this is something which you can go through perhaps later also. And if you have any questions on the comparison between these three file storage, but there are other storage also. So as and when we come across those, but these are the something which is very important. All right, so now let's shift the gear and try to understand which AWS cloud storage services is better. Now we have we understood about three types of storage: file storage, block storage, and object storage. We now, by this time, we have a little understanding about the three storages as well. Now try to understand which AWS cloud storage services is best, right? If someone asks you which cloud storage is best, but there is no direct answer. You cannot tell that, hey, object storage is best, or EBS is best, or EFS is best. That's the wrong calculation about the performance and the best, right? Because it depends upon case to case, which for which scenario and for which application you are trying to use your storage, right? So it depends. So these are the topics which we are going to discuss now. Amazon S3 is the cheapest for data storage alone. So if you see about the pricing, Amazon S3 is the cheapest one compared to other storage. But however, there are various other pricing parameters, right? If you are going to use, if you're going to make a lot of requests on one object, right? So imagine, I think in very first class, I might have given you one example where I come across one Domino's Pizza terms and condition, and they have released one offer, and that they have shared one URL. So when I clicked on that URL, that has taken me to the AWS S3 storage some file. So they have saved that PDF file on Amazon S3 storage. Now imagine across the world, or maybe a region specific, there might have millions of users who might have accessed that particular URL. Eventually, if they access those URL, eventually has gone to the Amazon S3 bucket or Amazon S3 object to access that particular terms and condition PDF file. Now there is a limitation of free tier access, and after that, yeah, they'll charge you for how much ever you are going to access that particular object. So imagine if Amazon is allowing you to access 100 times, and 1 million people have accessed that particular PDF file, then obviously you have to pay for it. Now how to pay? You know that the cost calculator is there for if that goes beyond 4 GB, 5 GB, or 1 GB, or the free tier. So for every GB, you have to pay accordingly. 0.025 something was there, right, in the cost calculator. So that was a very real-time example which I have seen. So you can correlate that example with the second point, where it depends, right? It depends upon various other pricing parameters in S3. Sorry. So it various other pricing parameters in S3, including cost per numbers of requests made, right? So how much you are requesting that particular object. And then EFS has the simplest cost structure. Obviously, object storage has different mechanism to to collect the cost, but EFS is very simple. So how much ever you are trying to access one block, they'll charge for it, or per GB, right? So if you're using a 1 GB or 1 terabytes of file storage, you will be charged for that. But in object, it depends. Today you have used 1 GB. Tomorrow you might have used 1 terabyte of same object. You might have access. So that is a different calculation for object storage. Amazon S3 can be accessed from anywhere. So if you give that URL, so just check that Domino's Pizza URL, which had the terms and condition and the offer included in that PDF. So I have access from one particular location. Few other people have access from different other location. And then EBS is the only available in particular region. So when you are going to create an EBS, it's going to be in one particular location. In particular region, right? It's a region specific, but Amazon S3, it can be accessed from anywhere. Then EBS and EFS are both faster than Amazon S3 because the IOPS and the low latency is the main reason it is very fast. And EBS is cheaper than EFS because you can use it for database and you can use it for database backup, any other low latency interactive application. So if you're trying to take a backup on volume itself, you have to use the low latency, and these interactive applications that requires consistent predictable performance. You know that for 1 GB of data to be backed, it will take uh, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, right? You know that for 1 GB it will take this much of time. But in block storage, the calculation may be slightly different. So if you want to use the cheaper version, you have to go for EBS. Then EFS is the best used for large quantities of data, such as large analytics workload, because you know that EFS is very fast and it's highly scalable. So you can use it for the large quantities of data. And if you have any big data or analytical data or data warehouse kind of data, you can push it to the EFS. So all these points will not conclude that which AWS Cloud services is best. It depends upon test to test cases as well. Now let's shift the gear and come back to the main topic which we wanted to discuss today, and that is AWS S3. S3 stands for Simple Storage Services, and as you all know, this was one of the very first services which was launched when AWS was launched, and these were the Amazon S3 was the first services which was launched as a part of AWS Cloud offerings. And when it started in 2006, because in 2006 they have officially released with 3 services. Now, if you know the answer, what are the two other services? Put it in the chat. And S3 enables a customer to upload, store, and download practically any object. Now, if you have any object on your laptop or any other machine, you can upload any of the data, anything, practically any object, right? Either if it is a software, it is a binaries, codes, or anything, you can upload to the S3 bucket. Now, when I'm going to pick the right answer, thank you. You were the first. So when I'm going to show you the lab section, there I could show you. I'll show you how to upload any data, and you can upload any sort of data to uh, Amazon S3 Simple Storage Services. Now, when you start working on Amazon S3, there are few things which you have to keep in mind. That very first thing is, where are you going to upload that data, right? You till now I'm telling that I can show you, I will upload some data, and I can show you can upload any sort of data, practically any object. But for that, to keep all your data in one container, we have to create a bucket, right? So you know that what is bucket, you must have in your home bucket, right? You can keep apples, orange, mangoes, any object. You can put a ball, you can put a cricket bat, if that allows you. So bucket is a kind of container where you can it's a virtual container where you store your object. So bucket is a services in Amazon S3, and it's a logical unit of storage. Object storage system stores files in flat or organization of a container called bucket, right? So we are going to create a bucket with the name some X name, and in that bucket only we are going to save our data. Now you can logically create multiple buckets, and you can push all your similar kind of data into that respective buckets. Or if you want to push all the data, now you have to organize it, right? If you want to keep all the backups in one bucket, you can do that. Or if you want to keep only images in one bucket, you can do that. So that's pretty much okay, you can do that, but depends upon project and depends upon how your company is allowing you to create a bucket. All those things, it depends. Then buckets are used to store object. You know that it's used to store the objects, which consist of data and metadata. And obviously, when you are going to upload one data, it has a metadata. Now, what is metadata? Right? Everyone knows that data of data is called metadata. If you're going to upload image, you could say that if I'm going to upload one image of one one hero, or one cricketer, or one baseball, or one any living things, or any images, you can define that, okay, this particular data is of image, or it's a JPG data. So there is no limit to the numbers of object a customer can store in a bucket. You create a bucket and you can store n numbers of objects into that bucket, right? So that's pretty much all about simple storage services. S3 buckets. We are going to create a bucket, and in that bucket we are going to store our data. Now these are some other components of Amazon S3, which is object key. Now, what is key? When you create an object, right? When I'm going to create one object, we specify the key name. We will add one key name, and that uniquely identifies the objects in bucket. Now, when I'm going to create one bucket, I'm going to give this particular key name is and perhaps the content type is JPEG, or the image type is something related, or when it's going to expire, it's going to expire in 30 days, 90 days. So all these are the keys. So when I'm going to show you lab, I'm going to show you how many kinds of keys available, or you can create your own key. So you can say that uh, the the object which I'm going to upload is the content is my codes. Right? In that way, you can also define. And these names are the object keys. These are the object keys which you can either uh, see from the drop down list, or you can create your own keys. Now, before I move ahead to the storage class, I'll tell you there are a lot of storage classes in Amazon S3, and but today I'm going to discuss only about S3 standard, S3 infrequent access. Now these are the two storage class which is available in Amazon S3. However, there are 4 and 5 uh, different storage classes are also available. But to make it easier for you all guys, right, rather than giving all the 6 7 storage class in one go, i'm just uh, I'm just trying to show you only two storage classes, which is S3 standard. S3 standard is a storage class where you can access or you can fetch your data as soon as you give the request. So imagine if you have saved your image with S3 standard storage class. Now these storage classes will comes into the options when you are going to establish, when you are going to upload a data into the bucket. It will ask you which storage class you want to save. Now if you're going to choose S3 standard, that means you are going to say that this particular data is very frequently used, because today I may access it, and tomorrow also I'm going to access it, and maybe after 1 year or 6 months. Now if S3 standard will tell you, you can fetch your data whenever you given a request to show that data, right? So that means it is every time it is accessible. But the S3 infrequent access is something where if you're going to fetch, if you are trying to save any object with S3 infrequent access, that means you're going to say that I may access this data maybe after once in a month or once in a year. So that means you are telling that you save my data in different storage classes, and S3 standard storage classes pricing is the highest, and S3 infrequent access may be slightly lesser than S3 infrequent access. Now there are others also, intelligent, there are glaciers, there are 4 5 different categories of storage classes which may which we can see it in our next classes. But today I'll keep it very short with S3 standard and S3 infrequent access. Now both are the storage class. You have to choose which storage class you want to save your object, and if you're not going to select anything, it's going to be your S3 standard. So that's a by default. Now you can keep your buckets and data as either public and private. Now when you are going to create your bucket, that time you have to define whether the bucket which you have created is publicly accessible or private accessible. By you have a different bucket policies where you can say that no, this entire bucket is public. Anyone have the URL to access my object can actually go ahead and access it. And you can also allow a user to access your S3 bucket with which roles you remember IAM section. We have created one user, and I have attached one policies to use my S3 bucket, right? So those things we are going to see in today's lab session. Now I'm going to stop it here for the theoretical part, and there are a lot of things which we have to cover in tomorrow's session. So I'll keep it short for today, and I'll just move to the S3 management console, and I'm going to show you what all things which I'm going to discuss with you now. So far what we have learned is we have understood about the different file storage, and our main focus is on object storage, Amazon S3. If you go to Amazon console, there you have either you can check it from S3, or you click on S3 services, and there in the storage section you could see S3 EFS, FSX, S3 Glacier. Like I said, there are different storage which we have available. I'm going to cover the S3 part now. You click on S3. This will take you to Amazon AWS S3 bucket, either AWS S3 console, and in this console, uh, let me take you to the console things. What all options which we have in this dashboard. the very first thing which I think I have covered, it's a global services, right? It does not require a region selection. So as soon as you click on S3, it's not going to go to any region. It's not going to land to your home region or any region. It's a global services. That means anyone can access it from any region. Now that's all about S3. And you could see this is my account and supports all those things is similar. Then you have a batch operation access analyzer for S3, or and then block public access account setting. Now this is the second settings where you can actually edit block all public access. That means you are going to tell that, okay, these buckets will be publicly accessible or a private access. Now here what is saying, block all public access is off. That means the bucket which I am going to create is of public. Now if you want to make it private, you have to click here. But that's the one setting which you can do it from here, or you can do it from the bucket level as well, right? So there also you have an option. Now in the bucket, you could see I have 7 buckets already created. These are the names of the bucket on the very first row. The second, it says that these are the regions where your bucket is. Now you will say, I'm confused. You said it's a global services, but then you have a region here. Am I going fast? Do you want me to keep it a little slow, or is that fine to you all?
Little slow, little slow.
All right. So right. So I thought I'm going a little fast. Anyways, so I'll keep it a little slow. Sure, sure. So all right. So I'll just pause it for 30 seconds. Okay. Just allow me 30 seconds. I'll again go back to my PPT and I'll try to see what all things which may need to recap it. So just give me 30 seconds. All right, so I'm back, and again, I'm not going to go ahead now. I would like to take a couple of questions if you still have with S3, and then probably I'll go ahead with this lab section because I have 20 minutes. I can take questions on S3 so far. What all we have discussed. So let you ask me any questions if you have anything related to S3. Go ahead. You can unmute it or you can put it in the chat. I don't get what is the application of these. So what can we store? What can we? All right, good question. So Jamim, like I said, it's a object storage, right? S3 is an application, AWS application. It's an object storage, and in the object storage, you can save any object. So when I say any object, that means anything which you can push it to the drive, right? In the Google Drive, what all things you can save? You have your answer, right? If in Google Drive, if you click on upload, you will see everything from your desktop or from your files or from your different folders. You can choose that and you can put it in the Google Drive. Now this S3, you just map the S3 with Google Drive. Google Drive is very similar to S3. S3 is just a name, and Google Drive is it's a name of Google product. Amazon S3 is a product of Amazon, and that also saves all the objects. So you can save any data, right? You can save your JPG, you can save your movies, you can save the backup, you can save images, you can save documents, you can save Excel file, you can save PPT. I can, whatever recording session which I am giving you, I can save it here. But if I save it here and you all 30 people will try to access the same data, that means, or one hour of data, 1 hour of that videos, that's going to charge me, for that. But in Google Drive, it's free, right? 15 GB is free. But here only 5 GB or something is free. And then if you try to access that data for the longest time, obviously a bill will come. So you can keep your data here, anything, right? So that's the first part of your question. The second part is, what can be stored in block and object? So in block storage, whatever binaries, right? Any binaries, you can also save the JPG images also there, but you won't be able to see that. Why? Because all the file systems, elastic file system and elastic block volume, right? These are the binaries coded, right? 10. You cannot just say view and some images in the in your Linux, because that's not allowed. It will not allow you to give you to see the images on Linux machine. But the text file, you could see that. If you have any text file or on your elastic file storage, you can see that. So object storage, you can put anything. You can upload your softwares also. But when you are going to upload the softwares, you would be able to see that software, right? Any coding things, no. Even though if that is in your machine, you won't be able to. If you just double click it, it will try to install it. But if you try to open it in TextPad, Notepad, Words, it will give you some binaries, because it's a binary coded, right? It's a coding. You won't be able to see what's there. And then if you want to see the same files or images, you won't be able to see in where in your file storage. So that was the answer to your question. Is not public means it's private? Yes. Gianna Violet, yes, that's correct. So when you have an option, when you just see this this screen which I am sharing it, it's a bucket, right? This name is bucket, and the access is object can be public. So that means whatever data, whatever objects I'm going to upload to this bucket, it's going to be publicly accessible, but provided you will have that URL to access the data, the objects, right? I will show you how to access that data. So that's hello. Is it audible now? Okay, right. So I think the voice was breaking. So to answer your question, Gianna Violet, it's you can make the entire bucket either publicly accessible. That means anyone who will have the URL of that object can access it. Now, this is something which I can show you once I'm going to upload one object. So hold it for a few minutes. I'm going to show you what does I mean by the URL, and then private. But anyone who is having the access to the bucket can still access it, even though if it is private. Any IAM user who is having access to the bucket can access it. So there are two different things. One is IAM user having access to S3 bucket can access anything, provided he is having access to that bucket and to the S3 services, full access. If he is having the only read-only access, he can only view it, but he cannot do any other operations. Okay, so that's pretty much about the public and private. And there was one question which somebody asked, that can you repeat S3 standard and S3 infrequent access? Yes. All right. So I was talking about storage class. Now, when you're going to upload any data, when you are going to say, hey, I'm going to upload one image, right? One image to one bucket. There you have to choose. Now you could see here, right? There is one, okay, luckily there is something which I could show you here. So this is one image which I have saved it in my Amazon S3 bucket. So you could see here, right? The right hand side, storage class. So this is the storage class. That means storage class is a storage it's a kind of storage which is a standard, right? So by default, if you are not selecting any storage class, the standard will come. And in a standard it will if you want to fetch this image, you will get it anytime, right? You need not to wait for anything. But if it is a glacier, if it is an infrequent access, you may have to wait for sometimes so that Amazon can provide you the image, right? Uh, so if it is going to save in a standard storage class, you will get your image fastly, right? Within a second. You don't need to wait for it. But if it is infrequent access, you may have to wait for 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes or 15 minutes. Okay, the image is coming from AWS to allow me to watch, to see my image, right? Or anything for that matter. But there are different storage classes also. Like I said, the storage class I'm going to cover perhaps tomorrow. But today, just for your information, I have given you only two storage classes. One is one is standard storage class, and second is infrequent. So infrequent standard is kind of by default. So anytime if you want to get this image, you will get it, right? I just clicked on open. I have my image from my in my browser, right? So everything is on internet. But if that would have been saved in infrequent access, yeah, here in storage class infrequent access or glacier, I may have to wait for 5 minutes, 10 minutes or 15 minutes based on the properties of those storage class, right? So here I just clicked it, I was able to see it. But in those storage class, I may have to wait for it. So I hope that may be a little clear for you. So just keep this information as of now. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to discuss more about different storage classes as well.
Piyush, Subhi there.
Yeah. So I'll take one question. Just give me just allow me a few minutes. So there was one question. See, the S3 entire services is global, right? That means for a AWS account, whatever buckets or whatever container you have created can be accessible to everyone to that account. But if you're going to create one bucket, you have to define which reason you want to create that bucket. So there is a two different thing. One is the S3 services. Services does not requires any reason, similar to IAM, right? IAM, did I choose any reason? No, because that is for entire AWS account. In the similar way, S3 is not specific to any reason. It's a global services. It's a service. It's not a container or it's not a data. It's a services. So S3, you can, everyone who is having access to the account can see how many buckets are there, provided you have the Amazon S3 services access. If you have the services access, you could see all the buckets listed here. But if you don't have the S3 services access, you may not be able to see it. But if you have it, you will see it. But now, if you're going to create a bucket, you have to choose which reason you want to create it. Now all your data will be saved in your reason, right? So if you're going to upload any data, obviously some data centers will keep or store your data, right? If you choose global, where it will go? It will go nowhere. But if you have to create a bucket, you have to choose the reason, and in that reason it will save your data. Now go ahead. I'm also reading a couple of other questions. Go ahead. I hope that is clear, right, Gianna? Sure. Thank you. Uh, Go ahead, Suresh. Who was that? I just missed your name.
Sumit.
Sumit, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. See, I'm a beginner for this cloud technology,
Sure.
and
Okay.
just now with this overview, I'm just understand that now, as you said about the storage classes, the standard classes and the uh,
Infrequent.
infrequent. It is
Yes.
more than the somehow tend to the billing and not to the technical actually something.
Right. Right. So let me give you again. See, when I said two storage classes, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Amazon has 7 or 8 storage classes. I'll give you all the names tomorrow.
Okay.
right? Why I don't wanted to mix all the 7 or 8 today?
Mhm.
Because you may get lost with all the different storage classes.
Mhm.
Now imagine if Amazon offers only two storage classes. One is S3 standard and S3 infrequent access.
Mhm.
That means they save your data in S3 standard storage classes, which has a different features. Now, what are those features? Imagine I have uploaded one image, right? Like I have shown you, I have uploaded one image, and
Okay.
suddenly you said that no, I wanted to access this image. I wanted to see what this image is. So you clicked on open, the image get opened.
Mhm.
Why? Because S3 standard storage class offers you such it has such properties that it will allow you to fetch your data ASAP, right? It will not delay you anything. So that is as soon as you access, as soon as you wanted to access that data, it will show you. So this is that kind of features. It will not delay, but
Uh, mhm.
But when you are going to save the same image in different storage classes, S3 infrequent access, or imagine Glacier, or there are other different storage classes. And if you click on open, I wanted to see what this image is or what this, my coding was, right? You might have saved one codes with one version.
Yeah, right.
So that time it won't give you as soon as you click on open, right? You have to wait for it,
Yeah.
because S3 infrequent access will not allow you to fetch your data as soon as you click on open or wanted to see that, because you have saved your data in a storage class which says that no, if you want to access it frequently, you have to save in S3 standard. You have to pay more. If you want to save in S3 infrequent access, you pay less, but whenever you want your data, you will have to wait for it, right? So now pricing also comes into the picture when you are storing your data in different storage classes. Now, when you are storing in Archive, Glacier, Vault, or different other storage classes, there are different terms and conditions. You have to keep your data for 90 days in S3 standard, then you can move it to Archive. So all those things I have kept it very simple. Now I hope Sumit, it's clear for you, right? Pricing also matters here. So that was one of the what do you say, terms and condition applied to this storage class, why we choose different storage classes.
Okay. Okay.
Any,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, but just one more.
Mhm.
It doesn't in infrequent access. It may doesn't cache also, or in the cache center, like we said in earlier last day. Also. Uh,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
no, standard S3 access can be cached right to the edge locations,
Mhm.
but in archives it will take some time, and it will directly give you an access once that those objects is available to see that. Now imagine you have saved your backup data of your database into archive, and you say that, hey, I wanted to see my 6-month old archive data. He said, no, you have saved it in archive, you have to wait for 3 to 6 hours or 15 hours to wait to see all those data. The
Okay.
cache concept doesn't comes here, right? Because
Okay.
it will allow, Amazon will try to get that data inside from some store, some hard drive, and then they'll try to fetch it and give it to you, make
Okay.
it available to you. So the cache concept doesn't come here, but in S3 standard, obviously when you are using S3 standard, the edge locations and all the cache concepts will come into the picture. That is a concept of CloudFront. Now, when I'm going to discuss about the CloudFront, there you will see that the S3 will use the CloudFront. And remember, when I have discussed about the edge location, I have told you that CloudFront and Route 53 are the two services which uses the edge locations, and the S3 bucket and CloudFronts are both intact.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Do you does each bucket in which you have stored data, your data, have URL? See, every object will have one URL. If you want to make it public, it will have one URL. Now, when I'm going to start on the lab session, lab part, I'm going to show you the URL of every object. Every object which you are going to save it will have a public URL. right? That's the advantage of object based storage, because every object will have a unique URL, and you can make it public, and that URL you can save it anywhere. Now again, recall that Domino's Pizza example, right? I have told you the terms and condition offers. So they have given me one URL, and that URL had that terms and condition in that PDF. I am going to show you how to make it, how to check that URL and how to access it, the different storage classes and the reasons and everything. I'm going to show you now. I think by this time by this time I think you at least have some understanding about the storage, right? So if you allow me, I'll go ahead with the lab part, and that may give you a little clear picture about what all we are going to start it. All right, so do IP address applies in S3? I don't think so any IP thing applies here. All right, so hope if you don't have any counter questions, I'll go ahead and create a bucket, right? So once I'm going to create a bucket, I think most of your question will be answered. All right, so let's go ahead, let's do that. Uh, all right, so this is going to be your Amazon S3 dashboard, and the very first thing, when you remember, if there is no bucket, that is the first thing which you are going to create a bucket. So you click on create bucket, right? So here the page comes where you have to create a bucket. Now remember what I said, you have a bucket, what you use in your home. So same bucket I'm going to create it here, and then I'm going to dump all the objects into that bucket. Now what's going to be my bucket name? So I'm going to give a bucket name called training AWS SGC. All right. So this is going to be my bucket name. Now there are some naming convention which requires here. So bucket name should be unique, right? If you give a space, will it take? No, it won't take spaces, because that's not, it won't take. And if you want to give T as in capital, it won't take. Now once you're going to create the bucket, it won't take the capitals. So let's says that bucket name must not contain uppercase characters, right? So it's not going to take it. So training AWS SG, and if you want to give C, right, it will say bucket name must not contain uppercase characters. Bucket name consists invalid characters. So I have given a space also. If you see space C, it won't take spaces also, right? And if you want to give any special characters also, it won't take. So these are the couple of things which you have to keep in mind once you are going to create a bucket, right? If you want to know more about it, you can see the rules for bucket naming. All right, so this name is fine to me, training. And if you want to suggest say AWS, it it should take, right? It is not taking, because bucket with the same name already exists. Why? Because I have not created the name with AWS. So it says that the bucket name should be uniquely, it's a unique across all the regions, or the region which you are going to create in. Now I'm going to create in Canada region. It says that AWS name is already taken. So whatever name which you are going to give it, it should be unique to that particular region. In Tokyo region also, it is the same thing. So always choose a name which is uniquely, it should be available to that particular region. So you have to add couple of other acronyms, or maybe extra letters as well. So let's choose something which is available, AWS, and then SGC. So that stands for training AWS SGC, or you can say AWS training SGC. All right, so this is going to be my name of the bucket and reason. Now here it comes the reason, right? Earlier I said that it's going to be global, but when you are going to create a bucket, it has to be assigned to one reason. Now the reason is obvious, because you are going to use data centers, you are going to use some storage of Amazon. So where are those storage, where are those data centers, where are, you have to choose some reasons, right? It should not be a global means where it will go, it won't go anywhere. So you have to choose the reason. And if you're not going to choose it, it will by default it will come like you said, like you have seen, the Canada has come. So you have to select the reason. Now the third part is, first two part is done. The third part is bucket setting for all public access. Now there are two different things. One, the bucket which I'm going to create is AWS Training as SGC. It's going to be a publicly accessible, or it is private to the AWS account. Now, if you say that, if it is a publicly accessible, that means it will have, if I share that URL to you, you will be able to access the object. Now, I'm keeping it public as of now. Okay. So very first thing which I'm going to keep it public, and once you're going to make it public, it says that turning off block all public access might result in the bucket and the object within becoming public. That means whatever objects which I'm going to upload in this bucket, it's all going to be a public. So that is fine to me as of now. So let's go ahead and create a bucket, right? So very first thing which I have done is I have created AWS Training SGC bucket. Now here this bucket is, you see that, and it's created in AWS Pacific Mumbai region, and objects can be public. That means the object which I'm going to upload it here can be a publicly accessible, and when it's going to create it, when it has created. Now just click on the bucket name and try to see what all options which you are which you could see here in this bucket, right? So you see that the bucket is created. Now I am inside that bucket. Now this is the bucket, and now you can upload your data. As you people have asked what all data I can upload. I can upload anything, right? I have an option upload, and it will take me to all the folders and subfolders of my machine, of my Windows machine, and I can also create a folder. Now this is similar to a Google Drive. It is similar to your computer CDE drive, where you just click on drive and create a folder and subfolders. AWS Training you can keep as an D drive or E drive, and then inside that you have all these options in Asia Mumbai region. Now this is the properties, permission management, access point. There are a lot of other options. I am not going to touch today. I'll keep it very simple, and I'm going to just go ahead and upload one object. Now once you click on upload object, it says that select file, set permission, set properties, and then review, right? So all these options which you have it here. So what there are two options. Either you add a file, or you can drag and drop files and folders here, right? So I'm going to just choose a add file. I'll go to my desktop. I'm going to select one image for you, and that image is selected. So what I have done, I have selected one image, create bucket s3.png. It's a PNG file. PNG is an image file, right? Image is the, then I can see that to upload a file larger than 160 GB, use the AWS CLI. Now this is different thing altogether. As of now, I'm not touching this part, but if the size of this image is more than 160 GB, I should have used AWS CLI, which I'm going to show you tomorrow, or just a small overview, or maybe while I'm wrapping up. Now you could see that I have two options, either upload and go to next. Now the very first thing I'm going to do it with the first option. I'm just uploading it uh, without uh, without setting any permissions to. Now in the bottom you could see here, right, operation 0 in progress, 1 success, 0 error. Right here it was 100% successful. That means this object is now uploaded to the bucket. So this is my object. So once I have clicked on this bucket, create bucket, this is uploaded. Last modified is May, and size is 136.9 KB, and storage class is standard storage class. Now you may ask, you have not selected the standard, because if I have just clicked on upload, I have not selected the set permission and review. And if I'm not going to select anything, the storage class will come as a standard. That means you want to use it this data frequently. All right, so the object is uploaded. Now if you want to see more about this upload, this object, what you have to do is you have to click on the object. Once you click on the object, all these options will come. This is the owner ID. This is some random number of that object. Last modified, e tags, storage class you could see here, right? It's a storage class. Is it a server side encryption? Now the encryption I'm going to talk about, the some encryption perhaps tomorrow. As of now, just it's a none. It's not encrypted, and the size you know that this is the size, and create bucket. This is the key name, and you can see here, right? It's a object URL. This is the object URL. That means HTTPS is an secured protocol. AWS Training SGC is my bucket name. S3.ap-south1 is the Mumbai region name. And then Amazon AWS.com / my bucket name. So this is going to be the URL of your object. Now every object which is going to be uploaded in this bucket will have the same URL. So HTTPS AWS Training SGC .s3ap south1 .amazon aws.com is the URL of your bucket, and then create bucket s3 is the last URL, which is the URL of your object. All right, so this is going to be your object URL. Now what all things which we have, either you can click on open and you could see that what's the image is, right? So this was the image which I have uploaded. So this was the image you could see here, right? And the URL you can see here, this is the URL. Now if I'm going to click on this object URL, now I have clicked on open. That means inside that bucket I have clicked on open to watch it. But if I give this object URL, whether this is accessible, you just click on here, right? So just open it in a new tab and see whether I'm going to access this object URL or not. So you might have seen I was unable to access through this URL. Now there is a reason for that, why I was unable to access. You say that it's access denied. That URL will not work. I will just ping this URL. Maybe you could also see that it's working for you or not. So this is the URL. So just click on this URL and see whether you are able to access this image. If I'm not able to access it, obviously you won't be able to access it, but just try it now. Now the reason being, you see that this object was created, this bucket was created, and object can be public. It's not public, right? It might have told you that object is public, but here it says object can be public. That means there is a possibilities that object may not be a publicly accessible. That means you have to manually make it public. Until unless you don't make it public, it won't be accessible to all the public, right? To the global row, Jamim, right? So you won't be able to do that. Now how to do that? You can click on download. If I click on download, because I have the access, I'll be able to download. You could see that, right? I'm able to download it. And if you want to download as, you can also do that. You can right click and you can save the name, save link as. Now here comes make public. Now this is the tab where you can make this object as an public, right? So now you have to explicitly, every time when you are uploading an object, you have to explicitly tell that, okay, make this object public. Now it says that success. Now just try to access the URL and see whether you are able to access it or not. Now many of you have asked, what is public URL? Why how URL will keep generated, right? Surya, you are able to access it. Pawan, Gianna, Jamim, you all try once again, and every one of you try. Now why it is accessible? Because that object, I have made it publicly accessible, right? Priyanka, you are able to access it because I have made it accessible to everyone. Now how to do that? There is a tab called make public. Until unless you won't click on publicly accessible, you won't be able to access as an publicly. Now you can share this URL to your friends can share to anyone. I can publish this URL to anywhere, and everyone can able to access this object, right? And then we have a different properties, storage classes, encryption, metadata. I have talked about the tags, object locks, then permission, how to give permission, right? So there are a lot of other things to discuss in S3 bucket. I want to keep it very simple for you guys. I and then you can also add a files, right? I'm going to upload a different file, and let me upload a different image altogether. And let's say I am going to upload. I have selected one more image now. Now I can select n number of images, right? You know that I can select n number of images. So I am going to select AWS detective.png, a different file which is of 35.3 KB. And now rather than click on upload, I'll go to next. Now here you say that it's a second is set permission, right? You can set the permission. Now you might have asked questions how to set the permission. You know that the owner of this account is who, right? I'm the owner of this account, and object is accessible. You can also make it object permission as read write read write. So Atul has asked one question, how to allow a permission. Now this is about the owner of this account. Now what happens to uh, Atul's account, or Surya account, or Sumit's account, or Abu's account, right? Who wanted to get the access of my bucket, or this image. How to do that? I will ask Abu, Atul, or Sumit, right, Jamim, to give me your account canonical name or email ID of your AWS account. I'll put it here, and I can give an access read or read write access. So that also I can do that. I can add a different accounts for this particular object, and you will see that you have got the permission, right? So that also I can do that. So this is about the manage users, manage permission. And then again, I am going to upload this AWS training in this bucket, this particular image. And here you have an options to manage public permission, right? So somebody has asked whether you can restrict. Again, you can do it. Do not grant public read access in this object. That means you are not allowing anyone to access it publicly. I'll say, okay, at this time I don't want it to be available publicly, right? So I'll say, and that is also recommended. You should not allow until unless it is necessary. Then there is a different option, grant public read access to this object. I'll say, okay, I don't want it as of now, so let's move ahead. So two thing is done, permission is done. So I'll just click on next. Now here comes the uh, properties for a storage class. Now you might have a lot of questions on storage class. You can see here. Now these are the different options which you have. What are the options? Storage class: standard, intelligent tiering, standard infrequent access, one zone, IA, glacier, glacier deep archive, and RR. So there are different storage classes, and all the different storage classes are designed for different things. Sumit, you asked about these questions. I think a lot of people have asked about the same question about the storage class, how to select, and what are the parameters to select that. Now, when you say designed for frequently accessed data, okay, and availability zones, it is greater than 3, and minimum storage duration is 0, nothing. You can there is no minimum duration to store your data. That means you put it your data, you can access it anytime, right? So there is no minimum billable object size, monitoring and automation fees, retrieval fee. Now retrieval fee is something. So let's say you have I'm going to, okay, so this won't allow me because per GB fee applies. So if you want to retrieve your data within 180 days, like you have, or let's start with the second one only, intelligent tiering. So long lived data with changing or unknown access pattern. You don't know whether the data is going to be frequently accessed or less frequently accessed. You can keep it here. And minimum storage duration is 30 days. So you have to keep your data minimum in this intelligent tiering. Before moving to the intelligent tiering, you have to keep it in a standard, and per object fee apply if you want to monitor it. And then a standard IA also, you have to keep your data in a standard for 30 days, then only you can move your data to a standard IA. For Glacier also, you have to keep your data in a standard for 90 days, then 91st day, uh, till 90 days you won't be able to access the data in Glacier. And similarly, if you're putting in intelligent tiering, first 30 days, if you access your data, you will have to pay for it. And for standard IA also, first 30 days, if you minimum is 30 days, you have to keep your data in standard IA. And if you're going to fetch the data in 29th day, you have to pay for it. Per GB fee apply. So imagine you have saved 1 GB of data in a standard IA, right? So if this image which I'm going to store it in a standard IA and to a standard IA, and uh, on 27th day, I feel that there is a requirement to fetch the image. So what I did is I asked Amazon that I want to fetch this image, which is of 1 GB. So they said that no, you have breached the rule. That the rule is 30 days minimum storage duration in a standard IA. And you said that no, in 27th day only you wanted to fetch the data, you have to pay for it, pay extra charges, right? So I'll pause it here because I don't want to get the more details into the storage class as of now. I know if I start on this, it may takes a lot of time to explain you. So I'll keep it as a standard, right? So this is the standard one, and the default one where you can access your data as early as possible. Now I'm going to explain you perhaps tomorrow on more about the storage class. So that's the reason I have keep it very simple. And then encryption also, I'm going to keep it as none. You can also assign encryption key. Now here, which I have discussed about the metadata, you can say that the content language is English. All right, so this is the header, you can save it, which is a and then tags, you can say name, my first image to S3. So this is the key, right? You remember this is the key which I'm going to add it. And you can also add metadata. Metadata is a data of data. You said that the content language is English. You can select also it expires in 30 days. You can say that it expires in 30 days. So all these are the headers for the data, and with these headers you can actually filter out uh, which all objects are going to expire in 30 days. And once you open this image, you say that okay, the content language is English. All these things are just to see the properties of the object, right? So select file done, select permission done, and object set properties also done. Now I can easily go ahead and click on next, and you can review it here. The one file 35 KB, and I have not granted anyone. Encryption is none. Storage class is standard. The metadata and tags I have added it. I'm go ahead and click on upload. Now it's in the bottom, you could see operations. uh, it's 100% uploaded, right? So I can now easily go ahead and access my data. So this was the AWS detective.png, and when 35 KB is standard. Yeah, I can click here, and if I want to open it, I can say open, and I'm able to open the image, right? I can also able to download it, and you could see that object URL is also created. If I go ahead and click on URL, I will get an access denied, because you remember in the properties file I have said it's going to be a private. All right, so I'm not going to give the public. If you want to give it public, you can click on make public. That is what you can do that. And if you go back to Amazon S3, and you can see that this AWS training SGC can be a public. This is a AP Asia Pacific region, and I have 8 buckets, and these are the 2 objects which I have uploaded here, right? Again, I'm going to stop it here for the very first session on S3. If you have any questions, you can again ask me questions, lot of questions. Keep your questions coming. Now, go ahead.
Question is, like, if I create a folder and it make it as a standard IA, do I need to specify all the objects as standard IA, or I can put standard in standard IA folder?
You can do that, right? When you are going to upload an object, you have all the options, right? Folder is
No, but
just
if I make the folder is standard IA, so
okay.
all the objects in that IA folder should be standard IA or not?
So this is a folder. I'm going to create it right away. Okay, it's asking whether the test folder is encrypted. I'd say no. it has never asked me whether it is a standard. Now, if you go ahead in that folder and going to upload data, now in this
Also,
object, it's going to ask me whether, you wanted to keep the
so,
data as an standard IA or Glacier or, infrequent access,
okay. So
right?
the storage class is only for
Object,
objects, not for the
not
folders.
for folders. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Got it.
Excuse me.
Yes, good, good.
Yeah, I want to find out if the reason why we create multiple buckets, is it because we want to separate our data, or because there is a bucket maximum size that a bucket can take, that if we fill up, we need to add a new bucket?
Now in our theoretical part, I said AWS bucket can keep on growing unlimitedly, right? You can push, you can upload any n number of data. There is no limit to that. But for bucket, yes, there may be limitations to create a bucket. Now, why do we create a bucket? Right, different 8 buckets. I have 8 buckets. Why? Because I know that one bucket is for one specific developer team. It can be a different bucket for backups. One more bucket is for my image. One more bucket is for my movies. One more bucket is for my credentials data, which I wanted to keep it private. So there are different logic behind it. You can correlate all these things with your laptop, with your drives, with your folders, and with all the objects which you have saved on your laptops, right? So in that way you can create multiple folders, multiple buckets here, multiple again folder subfolders. You can also do that, right? So there is no such limitations on the bucket. You can on the objects you can upload n number of data. You can, yes, you can create a bucket in another region, right? You could see here who asked this question. Let me get his name. Akshay. So, right, so we have already answered it, but again, you can see here, right? AWS CLI Pius was created in US East, AWS Training, which I have created in Asia Pacific, and there are a lot of other buckets which is created in different regions. And you know that why regions are necessary and why region is important. So now imagine if I have to create one bucket specifically for Gianna, right? I think he's in US, and Abu, who is in London, and many of us are in India. So if these people from different location will try to access my data, whether it's a good idea for Abu to for Abu to access my data in India region? No, I'll create a bucket for nearest to his region so that the latency will be low, and he will try to fetch my data as faster as possible. But for if I create the data for Gianna in India or Frankfurt or any other region, but he is in the US, so obviously the latency will be more. He will take some time to fetch the data, and it's not a good idea. So based on all these calculation, you try to calculate, okay, in this region we have to create the bucket, so that right, so we can access the data as early as possible and with low latency. All right, go ahead. Keep asking questions. I want every one of you to be very clear about our first session.
Piyush Prithvi here.
Hi, Prithvi.
Hi, Piyush. Piyush, see, I have 100 objects in one bucket, and can I create another bucket in another region where I can copy all the objects? So parallel bucket. Can I make a parallel bucket?
Yes, yes, you can do that. But I think your question is very smart, and I'm going to discuss about this particular thing day after tomorrow. It's a replication kind of thing where you can replicate your data. So that's a very good question. I'm happy that someone asked this question. I'm going to discuss, but let's hold on this topic for tomorrow, day after tomorrow. I'm going to talk more about that particular thing. I don't want to start a new topic altogether for all our newbies. So just hold on. But yes, your answer, the answer to your question is we can do that.
including the settings also, right? Access settings, the permissions, everything will be replicated.
Everything you can do on a new bucket. You can set a different rules, different set of permissions to a new bucket. A replication, someone asked Akshay, right? So we will, Abu will do that a day after tomorrow. I know I'm very fast today, so I wanted to take a pause here so that every one of you will be on the same page. Everyone should understand the logic behind the object storage. If you're going to make it public, you have to do that. This is how you can allow everyone to access through the URL. Now, this is very rarely people use this one, right? The object URL. If you are working in a company, they never do that. Only which company does that? Who has digital marketing, or someone has to market, someone has to open up all the files accessible to across globe. So then that case, you can actually make it publicly. So you have to do it explicitly. You can keep it unlimited, but based on how much you try to fetch the data, you have to pay for it. I think 5 GB is free. If you cross 5 GB, you have to pay for it. You have 3 more minutes to shoot your questions to ask, and then we are going to wrap up the session. I think this is going to be a very fruitful session for you all. I hope I am going to discuss about roles, Priyanka. Perhaps once I'm going to finish this, S3 bucket. Now, let me give you a small example. You have created a user, okay? Roles we are going to discuss, but let me give you, I think you have asked multiple times the same questions. The roles, you have created a user. Now, user is of no use without a policies. What user will do if you have not attached any policies? You have hired if TCS or any company hired a employee, and TCS has not given any access to him, so he is of no use. As soon as someone get hired, he has to at least give an access to come inside the building, right? So first thing is you have to attach, TCS has to attach one policies to that user profile that at least you can come inside my building. So that's going to be a user policy, right? So policy you have assigned. In the similar way in AWS, you are going to assign one policy to a user that you can use one particular services. Now services can be anything. Now, in our lab session, I have discussed that. I have shown you that the S3, one user can access S3. All right. So I have logged in with a different browser. I have shown you that, okay, this user is able to access and he is unable to access EC2. But he was able to access AWS S3 object. Now, why? Because I have assigned the policies to him, right? So that is about users and roles. Now, users and policies. Group. Someone asked, what is group? You can assign multiple users who is having a same policies attached, or what you can do is, I have 6 members going to join. All the 6 member needs an access to the Google Drive, right? So these are the similar users. So what I will do, rather than attaching a policies to all the users, I created one group called Suggest Cloud Google Drive, and I have attached all the 6 users to that group, and I have attached a policy that, okay, you guys can now access the Google Drive link. You can upload, you can download all the recorded session. So that's going to be a group. So all the policies attached to the group will be inherited to all the users. So far clear, right? Roles, policies, and users and groups. Roles, I'm going to discuss it now. Now, what is role? But so far you have talked about only users. You have not talked about S3 can access EC2, or EC2 can talk to Amazon S3 bucket, right? Or vice versa. In that case, you have to create a role. So you have created a roles, and in that role you have said that my source is EC2. That means my server will get an access to Amazon S3, or my server will get an access to this image. So how to do that? Any user can do these kind of access? No, because EC2, how he will understand that I have an access to Amazon S3 different services. So there you have to create a role. So you click on role, create roles. There you select your source services. There you have selected EC2, and then you have to attach which services you want to use. So on behalf of you, on behalf of the user, EC2 can access which services? You selected EC2 can access S3 bucket, right? Once you selected the S3 bucket, then you attach that policies, right? It can access Amazon S3 full access or read-only access, what kind of access you want to give it to them. Then that is called as roles. So you have assigned, you have created a roles to enable EC2 access all the objects in Amazon S3 bucket. So that's going to be a role. So two services can talk to each other based on roles. Let me show you one more thing, which I wanted to show you all. This is Amazon CLI. Okay, so this is Amazon CLI, and you know that I have created one. What? S3. I have created two users, right, that day. One was programmatic, and Prithvi, Sumit, a lot of question, a lot of Priyanka, Twinkle, Sneha, everyone has asked what is CLI, how to use that, and how to use as an programmatic access. Now, Amazon AWS CLI is a software you can download from AWS link or Google. So the very first thing which you do it is AWS CLI, you download it. Then you go to CMD, and this CMD will come, right? Now the very first thing which you can do is AWS minus version dash version. So this will give you the AWS version. This is CLI, right? Command line interface. Now you could see that AWS CLI version is 1.18, and it also offers Python, Windows 10, and boot OA core, right? So Python script also it. Now you remember AWS, I have created a user with access key and secret access key, two secret access key it was there, right? So how to configure your user to use the AWS CLI. Now if you join a company and they will give you a backend access of AWS CLI, how to use that? Then the very first command which you use is you have to configure your user. Now once you click on AWS configure, it will ask you a couple of questions. It will ask you AWS access key ID, right? You have that XLC, you copy and paste it here. Okay, and then it will ask you what, then you click on enter, and it will ask you a secret access key. Now once you do that, it will enable your user for this. Now it's already enabled for one of the user. And Priyanka, you remember that IAM user, I have assigned what? I have assigned that user to access full access of AWS S3. Now how to verify? So how to do the AWS S3 and LS? So this is the command. If that user, which I have just configured it here will have, if that has a full access of the S3 bucket, I'm going to see all the buckets which I have just created. All right. So let's do that. I've just click on AWS S3 LS. Here you go. Now that user has the access to see all the buckets here. You could see that, right? AWS S3 LS. So from CLI, I was able to access my bucket. Now if I say AWS EC2 LS, I think it won't give me because I don't have the permission, right? Oh, I think the command is not correct. All right, so this EC2 doesn't have the access to see what all instances I have created. All right, so here you can see that I'm able to access all the AWS list, all my buckets. Now I have full access. Now I can create a user, or I can create a new, what do you say, a new bucket from here as well, because I have full access. So how to do that? AWS, I'm going to create S3 and then MB, that is make bucket. So AWS S3 MB is a command, AWS command. And then what you are going to do is S3 with what name? With AWS CLI or bucket from CLI. So that's going to create a bucket for, from CLI. Okay, there is an error. 1 second. If I give the different name, sometimes it won't take a name bucket. Use PP. All right, so the name was slightly, it was unable to take the name. So now you could see that the bucket, I have created it. And if you want to see AWS S3 LS, now this bucket will also show up here. And bucket, right? Use PP. Right. So here you could see that the bucket is created. Now, if I go back to the console and if I see whether the bucket is created or not, I should be able to see that bucket also, right? Because I have all the permissions here. See here, now it is created, right? It is created in US East North Virginia. Now, if you are not going to assign any reason here, it will by default create in North Virginia. Now you know that why? Because if you're not going to select anything, it will go ahead and create in this one. In the alarm also, it was allowed to create in North Virginia only. So I hope by this at least you can you have understood about the basics about S3. Tomorrow I'm going to touch. I'm going to cover a little more about S3 bucket. So if you have any questions, you can still ask me, or we are on WhatsApp. Priyanka, are you clear about roles now? All right. Anyone else have any questions before we wrap up? This is just a basic. There are a lot of other things to come. Abu, thank you. A lot of things we are going to cover in S3. This is just going to be a basic. All right. So thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. If you don't have any questions, thank you so much. Bye bye.